I don't know that I necessarily believe in decoupling with this reality being the ultimate goal. I don't know that I believe in that. I don't know. I think it's possible. I think it's possible to leave and to not reincarnate. I mean, people who smoke DMT can't reincarnate, so I think it's possible.
Yeah,
Well,
Jules was
I
always
think
interested in trying out different psychedelics, but you remember with the
Yeah.
National Arts Club, Jules, I was telling you that, like, dude, like, I don't know, there could be things out there that you would experience that even though
I
they,
wouldn't do it with you as my sitter, but I would do it with someone that I
why wouldn't you do it with me?
trusted.
What, you
Wow,
don't
that's
trust me?
still
I
strong.
whoa,
trust you.
be best
I trust
friends.
you. I trust you, but here's the thing, right? There are certain people that I think are capable of smoothing over like harsh reactions, or like, let's say someone blunders. Some people are so good at smoothing over blunders that you can smooth over other people's blunders. And
You know what I
I
think?
don't think if I was having a bad trip, I bet you could, but considering I've never done one, I would want someone that I really felt like I could trust fall into and would never let me down.
You know what I think? I think that bad trips are a lie. I've done 10 times before and I'm just fine. I've never had a bad trip before. I think if you had a bad trip on LSD, you're a high lick. Um, I
Probably
also
I
comes
don't
from
think I would
within.
have a bad trip either, to be honest.
I would,
But
you'd
In
again,
some ways,
fine.
bad
You'd be
trips
I've
fine.
are
never
You're
done
literally,
it
beautiful.
you're literally just
because
normal. You're literally just normal. You just return to baby on LSD. Literally. Like I keep saying that, but you literally just return to baby and you just act like that. You're not gonna like wild out. It's not really that bad. In fact, I wish that every 13-year-old has a video of them posted on the internet with them taking LSD, and let's see how they do.
see,
Oh
because
God.
it's because of
Oh.
your fear, Lev. That's what it is. Because you've expressed so much fear and reservation, and I mean, for lack of a better word, paranoia about the negative potential of psychedelics. I would want a more optimistic person that wouldn't get frazzled by something that is easily handleable by a person with a different perspective.
Exactly. You'll pretty much be fine. I agree with you, Jules.
Yeah, but
I agree with
yeah,
Jules
I
too.
thought that the ketamine was more of the return to baby drug. It's more of like the in womb cosmic womb drug, whereas LSD is like almost the opposite. It's like, yeah, that's some
Yeah,
weird
like
like
mushroom
drug Irwin
to
culture
me.
stuff.
Yeah, to me, LSD is return to baby, and mushroom is like man to
Mm.
monkey.
Mushroom.
Mushrooms literally return you to your ooga booga state. I swear.
No, but what Aryan Cowboy was
Bunga
saying is
bunga.
interesting about exiting is not the goal, because isn't that sort of the basis of like the Shankara version of Vedanta, where moksha is already integrally a part of this reality. It's not that you're escaping to like some netherworld reality. It's just that it's here right now, but you have to sort of quote unquote realize it, right? And ahamkara is like what prevents you. So yeah, maybe like this, you have to really be careful because a lot of these concepts are mediated by like new age jargon that becomes westernized. So it's really difficult to describe in these terms like quote unquote exit or transcendence or whatnot. Those are very like Western imported concepts in a lot of ways that come from like 19th century American transcendentalism and things like that. So it's always like, this is my thing for years and years, like being in the perennialist thing is ultimately what I realized is that there is always a danger to being like a total synchronist and like taking like this theosophy like mishmash of different things. It can potentially
What's a
lead people
synchronist,
down a
by the way?
dangerous
What's a synchronist?
like syncretism, like meaning you're taking different traditions that even are sometimes contradictory and like putting them together and making them fit in places that are derooted from their original context. And so I think that that's a criticism that I think is entirely valid of perennialism. As much as I enjoy and have a lifelong obsession with perennialism, I think that's one valid criticism, is that everyone needs their own tradition that is wedded to their own culture and ethnos and way of being. And
Yep.
I think that that is probably the best approach. I mean, I know that a lot of perennialists, they became Sufis like Fritjof Schuon, Rene Guignon, even in the contemporary world, Charles Upton, he is a big Sufi that is like one of that carries the mantle of perennialism nowadays. I highly recommend his books. He came out recently with a book critiquing Dugin. I know you would like that, Lev. It's called Dugin Contra Dugin, where he like has a perennialist critique of Duginism. So I think that's very good. Of course, Mark Millerman on Twitter, I asked him about this. He said that, oh, well, you know, Charles Upton was getting some things wrong, because I know he's like a really big into Dugin. And I admire some parts of Dugin, but I wouldn't consider myself a Duginist, obviously. But there's a lot of like weird hangups he's got. But sorry, I'm just fucking rambling right now.
I would absolutely use Lev as a guide after I had more experience.
What did you say?
It's my own fear as well that makes me.
No, I think Jules is
would
right.
Want me to have more experience.
I think Jules has a point as far as, for me personally, I have taken the Terrence McKenna heroic dose of mushrooms back in 2016, but the person who I took it with, we had very different experiences. My experience was, it was great. I got to that state of feeling, you know, like, yes, we are all just one thing that's experiencing itself at this moment. I saw plenty of, you know, like the two triangles combining together, the cross in the center, which I see anyway, but it was just like a super powered cross in the center, you know? And this lasted for many months afterwards, as far as the kind of things that I'm seeing right now just through meditation. It took me several years to get to maybe a quarter of what I was able to see about a month after I tripped. But my friend who was there, she was in such a state of saying that she was losing her mind, where she did not have the same experience. She kind of like,
your friend was a Heilig.
I guess I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, she might have needed a sitter.
Yeah, we both decided on the dose and we took it, and this is what happened.
But Lev, you brought up a really good point.
Sink or swim.
Well, Jules. Oh wait, go ahead, legit.
Oh, it's just a quick point. You brought up that, you know, through meditation you were achieving similar results, but much slower.
Yes.
And then when you took, you know, the substance, it kicked you into overdrive. Now this kind of brings back to DMT that we were talking about earlier. DMT is the one you don't mess around with, because basically what you're doing is you're taking a sledgehammer to the wall instead of walking through the door.
Exactly.
And that's not something you should be doing.
Exactly.
And I don't want to do mushrooms again. Like, this is the thing. Even though I did it that one time, and I'm not saying that I regret it, I think it was a good experience, I don't think it's required by any means. Like,
it definitely isn't.
No, none of them are required. They're just
Do you think that your mind's eye might have been improved by taking the mushrooms?
I had the mind's eye. No, I had the mind's eye thing before I took the mushrooms. Definitely. Like when I was doing the Wim Hof method, that's when the light in the center started opening up and I started seeing a cross and all that other stuff that came with it. So it was before, and it definitely heightened it for several months afterwards. Then it tapered out, and from there on in, I mean, I always see vibration around. Like, I'm looking right now at the room, everything's vibrating. I didn't really get it from the mushrooms. I got it from doing a lot of this breathing stuff earlier on. And just in general, like closing the eyes, I see after images last, like I see lights last for a long amount of time, even after I close the eyes. As well as all the other crazy stuff I mentioned before with like all the
visual snow.
Kind of like visual snow, but it doesn't blur the vision. Like, I still see everything very
visual
clearly.
snow doesn't blur the vision. It's just
static.
It's like static, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like that. But it's not.
Yeah.
But it's not static in place, where I could see static moving a certain way around certain objects differently. So if I were to look at my my bed right now, I would see static like on top of it, and I would see static around the objects, almost like three-dimensional static, if you will.
You should try the magnet test. What you should do is you should put a really strong magnet in the darkness, and try to find it. Like, try to find it with your eyes, because you'll start seeing static around it.
Interesting. I'm definitely going to try that out. I have a pretty powerful magnet somewhere in the jar. And another thing that I've noticed that's interesting is that sometimes when I look at people for a long time, I do see a color around them, you know, like blue or yellow or whatever. But at the same time, I also see that around...
Auras.
I don't know, because I also see that around certain objects too. So I don't
Objects have auras.
Lev,
There's energy residues in object as well.
Synesthesia.
Do I have an aura right now?
Bro, you're seeing auras, Lev. Come on, man. Upgrade.
All right. I mean, look, if I look at a piece of plastic and I'm seeing the plastic's aura, I don't know. Something's weird about that to me. I would want that color to be differentiated when I look at a person. so that it wouldn't just be me staring at something for a long time and then just having some colored image appear from that. Like I would want there to be some differentiation when I see a human being, Zora, versus when I see something else. So until that part,
Well,
yeah, you see these things like unconsciously, but you can train it. Like if you really want to train it, just put like somebody that you like really know against a white wall and like stare at them basically, and like keep training it over and over time, and then maybe like you'll probably be able to see it instantly and click it on and off when you can.
Interesting.
That's just,
Interesting.
You know what's interesting about psychedelia is that Owen Cyclops talks about this. We should have him on the show.
Definitely.
He should totally come on here.
He's interested. Yeah. He's interested in coming in. We're just trying to work out when to do it and how to do it. But definitely.
I'll definitely be on for that. But I think Owen was touching upon this, but maybe you should DM him, or I should have a thread about this. It seems, he wasn't saying explicitly, but it seems to me that since the 60s onward, or I would even say since the 19th century with William James taking poppers, the gas, the thelemites and so forth. It seems that psychedelia, despite the hopes of hippies and certain left-com people that are into this, it seems that psychedelia tends to resist overt politicization in terms of political praxis. It seems any sort of social organization that is outside of a context of a ritual, like a tribal ritualism throughout the global south and even the global east. It seems that in the West anyways, that any sort of organization in the modern world that is based a social arrangement on psychedelia has almost been a failed alchemy, as Terence McKenna called the 60s. Now, it used to be the case that in the West, whole societies were run by elites that were bombed out of their minds on ergot poisoning and so forth. But it seems that something fundamentally shifted within the Western consciousness, whether you want to say it's Christianity or so forth, or even Islam, that sort of made us in a way that our social arrangement has no place for this overt psychedelic expression. And I don't know whether it's a good or bad thing. I think that perhaps maybe it's a good thing, because I'm a total elitist on this. I share the Owen Cyclops opinion. The thought of normies doing LSD like what they have nowadays with like Amazon tourism, I think that's crazy. This is like going to produce a society of schizophrenics or something.
I know some of those people, by the way. Like I run in circles with a lot of the Burning Man people, and to be quite to be quite honest, like I don't really see that much of a gigantic effect that this has had on them, as far as now they come back and they're like some genius or anything like that.
Because they're viewing it not as a ritualistic aid, but they're viewing it like some fucking pharmacological thing, like you take the antidepressant and it takes away all of your problems. That's like, again, another I wish Peter Kaufman was still here.
And I mean, some of them are really creative people. Some of them are really creative people too, but I don't think they need it. But like it's just they're in these circles, they run in these circles together, they go to Burning Man, they take all this psychedelic stuff.
And that's the danger that Owen Cyclops talks about, is it really producing transformation in people, or is rather the community and the literature and the sort of hip coolness around it is producing a lot of delusion about the actual effects of psychedelia outside of someone's native ritual context? That's a valid critique. And of course, when being in a lot of these circles back in the day on Facebook, these like Terence McKenna groups, you bring this criticism up, they go nuts. They're like, ironically, the least introspective people, right?
Wait, by the way, Gio, I can definitely get, and this is like 99.9%, Dennis McKenna to come on this show.
If you bring him on with Owen Cyclops, that could be like a legendary stream right there.
Yeah, well, I'll let Owen know and see if he's interested in coming on, but I could definitely arrange that for sure. And John,
what were you gonna say, Hero?
I was gonna say that the same kind of attitude is a lot of the problem that I have with how society currently is. I think I see this a lot with taking psychedelics. I see this a lot with people trying to convince each other of like this really uninformed version of nihilism, just shouting at each other, nothing matters. Like that just seems to be something so prevalent in a lot of youth culture as well. There's a lot of these, forces and ideologies and substances that people are actively trying to push as like something cool, as something that people should just try, something that people should just take. And it's like, it's just like a thing to do. There's a lot of this going on right now, and I think it's just completely detrimental to people. I think it's really harming them, and I think it's putting them in positions and in states of being that is just they're not ready to deal with.
And so a lot of people.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's well said.
Bane.
What I was gonna say is those types of people are the ones that want everything that they do and everything that they seem to be deep, but they're not ready to get out of the kiddie pool yet.
Exactly.
By the way,
the thing is, I admire like that spirit. Like even in leftist circles, the situationist international, like that sort of melding of life practices and Dada and spiritual practices with politics. I think that's a noble goal. And if we had a real society, we would have a meshing of spirituality and politics. But as it is nowadays, it seems to be a failure. And even the Situationist International failed after a while, and then the Nazis came and it was all over. So
they're still around in some way.
They have their own spirituality that they welded with politics, but that was again another horrendously failed experiment. I don't mean to piss off a lot of my followers.
Oh no, I mean they're still around in some sense. Like there's still psychogeography is still a big deal.
Exactly.
There's still aspects of Situationist International that are active. But with the drugs thing, what's funny is that you see the same thing with amphetamines.
Yes.
You see like these people that turn into total bugs, and they get their eyes pop out and their skin, they start peeling their skin off and thinking they have bugs on them, and then you've got like, Nazis taking it and sniping people. It's just like, you know what I mean? Like
the Japanese kamikaze with it,
And people in every industry, at the top of every industry, are all on stimulants, man. I mean, for the most part.
Did you hear the Bronze Age Pervert episode on stimulants versus like drugs?
I
like
did,
marijuana?
I heard him talking about that. That was a good episode.
It's true. Like, I hate to say it, I don't advocate this for anybody, but it's kind of true. Being someone who's been around construction my whole life, I kind of would trust a cokehead to get things done more than a pothead. That's just like a fact, even though I don't advocate that, obviously.
Well, considering like your economy runs on a bunch of cokeheads, obviously.
Exactly, yeah. But it is true, the different stimulants people take, that's the basic thesis, that they have an irritability about them, but it's a different irritability than someone on marijuana, where it's kind of like passive aggressive. The irritability of someone on speed is like kind of like crazy, like almost brilliant in a way. Like, why do you think all the jazz musicians run heroin? Because like Chet Baker said, even though I do not advocate this, obviously the drugs and music thing, Chet Baker said, it's like when I'm on heroin, I can get through every note. I can go inside physically every note and feel it. And I think that's crazy. Of course, he died as a lifelong heroin addict, penniless.
I would never do heroin.
If you
Good on you.
If you do drugs, you have to go through the circle. You have to get addicted and you have to get out.